Bragg found out that Clayton had actually penetrated that far? Or did he ever really find out until?
Probably when he read Buckner's report sometime in late October.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since Clayton was over there so briefly, I doubt that word filtered up the chain of command all the way to Army headquarters that, hey, we broke the center.
I don't know if he found like an hour later or months later.
Yeah, late October might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but nowhere near in time to do anything about it. So, but the other thing you have to ask is where, if the Confederates are going to exploit whatever Stuart found here, was Stuart supposed to attack here, or was Stuart supposed to fight here to begin with? No. Where was he supposed to be going? All the way up to the far right, up there where to Jay's Mill, up there where Forrest and Walker have been fighting Brannan and Baird, and so are the Confederates prepared to exploit something here? Even if there was something more intended here, where would those forces for exploitation have had to have been? What formation would they had to have been in? And then what would they have been told that they should be prepared to do and execute here? So, if you're going to have troops for exploitation or follow on, where are they? What readiness condition are they in? And what are the orders that they're prepared to exploit?
You made the point that Bragg reached back to grab Stuart's division to bring them up. Did Bragg still have it in his mind when he left Hood's Corps, where they were east of Vineyards? Did he still have it in his mind that he was going to execute that attack?
I think so.
Straight to the west?
I believe so.
Well, not so much just to the west. They would have moved west initially, but they were supposed to then wheel south.
Yeah, their mission is to
push everybody away from.
Well, turn the flank of the 21st Corps. He hasn't fully grasped the fact that most of the 21st Corps has now moved north and is opposing him directly astride this road rather than still concentrated there down by the mills.
Despite the fact that from not a mile from his headquarters, basically the same distance that Stuart has to go to see Bragg at Bragg's headquarters before to try to get some clarification. Bragg could have been on a rise of ground from which the Eufaula artillery fired a few shots at Federals in the area of Lee and Gordon's Mill in the morning, and from which Confederates observed Federals marching northward that morning. So, should Bragg have sensed that the Federal Army was shifting north of Lee and Gordon's Mill?
Any Army commander, any 19th century Army commander or Corps commander faces a double-edged problem. If he stays put, everybody can find him. His couriers can go out, issue orders, come back. Information can flow to his headquarters. If he moves too much, no one can find him. You're effectively incommunicado, even though you may only be a few hundred yards away. It's Erwin Rommel solved this by flying around and descending out of the clouds, but he had a fully functioning headquarters staff who basically ran the Army, ran the Africa Corps while he was out gallivanting around.
He had a big
Bragg obviously doesn't have that option. Rosecrans moved a couple of different times on the battlefield, but by and large stayed put relatively close location. Bragg, as far as I can tell, on the 19th, moved hardly at all. And so everybody could find him, Stuart could find him. But for whatever reason, the information flow that's supposed to be flowing back never really flowed, never gave Bragg a clear picture of what was happening. And so if you go forward and you get a personal look, you maybe have a better sense of what's going on. but you're also focused on one piece of the battlefield when other information might be sitting back at your headquarters that you need to know.
Bragg's subordinates needed to be feeding him reports of information. Rosecrans subordinates are doing that. That's what allows Rosecrans to then offer the direction to Palmer and Hazen to go in echelon.
We get, we can have hints of the fact that Rosecrans is keeping abreast of the battle by the decisions and messages that he sends to his subordinates. We don't get that sense from Bragg.
Well, how much of that goes back, though, to Bragg being so despised by the upper echelons of the command in the Army of Tennessee?
A lot of it.
I mean, you know, you always get the feelings just like, screw him, we'll fight it here, we'll do whatever.
Well,
so are you saying it's the subordinate commands cooperating with Army headquarters or Corps headquarters or Division headquarters in the Army of the Cumberland, or are you thinking that it should be like staff officers?
in my personal opinion, it's that the Corps and Army headquarters in the Army of Cumberland are much more professional and effective.
It's all of those things that you named, and it's the flow of information up and down that chain of command. Because the eyes of the Army commander are people up and down that chain of command, and he can see things by the reports getting to him.
Isn't a great example though with Hazen? I mean, he was coming in here. That information had been going someplace, so if there was someone had to know where he was or had a plan for him at some point in time, and now that he's moving over here, if that information's not flowing back, it could have been something earlier than when Longstreet broke through, where there had been a void where he had not yet.
Yes. Hazen's action was taken in the heat of the moment because of the crisis.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
There was no time to show. And we're about to have another crisis, and Hazen is going to go off and deal with that.
But he was likely communicating that. Some staff officer or somebody was communicating that back, right?
He doesn't say. He is probably trying to report to Palmer, but whether or not that's actually reaching Palmer.
It's probably not reaching Palmer because of the fact that Palmer, we've had this breakthrough with Bates in 2020. Palmer's actually on the other side of that. Palmer has been writing back and forth, communicating with Reynolds, and for some time he's up here with Tom Critton is communicating with the Corps commander. But when Bates drives north of the road, Palmer is heading back along the Brotherton Road, and almost as a matter of fact gets killed by Confederate soldiers. Not sure. Maybe we're joining each other. But so Palmer ends up back there. If Hazen is trying to communicate with Palmer and going this way to find Palmer, he's sending staff officers. They're not getting through because what they're running into is the wake of Bates' advance. So there's going to be Confederate stragglers and provosts and people wandering around.
The Federals also benefit from Tom Crittenden being here for a time, and then Joe Reynolds is here. He had actually been told to kind of backstop this position out to the east of the road, and he's very active. And in de facto coordinating things, although I'm not sure that, well, Reynolds would have told you he was coordinating things, although I'm not sure there was a real plan. He was finding anybody who could shoot and trying to shove them into the line.
Well, as a typical example, he retains the 75th Indiana here as a reserve. 6 Ohio comes to him and says, we need ammunition, so he puts them back there and resupplies them with ammunition. And Palmer rides up and says, I need a regiment to protect my flank. Reynolds says, I've got the 75th Indiana. It's my only regiment right now, but they can go in. So he is providing some sort of support and coordination. And it really gives the 6th Ohio back too, that we won't make it.
The Federals know that they need to keep their way open to Chattanooga, and so you gotta you got a lot of people working towards that one goal. So, but not enough Confederates understand that Bragg wants to try to keep the Federals from getting back to Chattanooga. Clark?
Is there any indication that there was an understanding of this almost breakthrough on the 19th that led to Longstreet's positioning of his assault on the 20th, or is it just a coincidence?
It's just a coincidence. Yeah, if anything, you might not have heard me when we stopped or we're finishing up Stewart. If anything, what becomes Longstreet's column, which was not at all what he was intended, if anything, what starts Longstreet's column is that Stewart stops there astride the Brotherton Road when he falls back from all of this. And he is going to be shifted the next morning a little northward, but that's what starts to create that collection of Confederates that eventually becomes what we all like to call Longstreet's column.
Grand Assault Column.
Longstreet's Grand Assault Column, as if that was what Longstreet was trying to do all along.
Well, he did one for you. He got 5. He wanted at least.
Eventually, though, the way through here on the 20th is really just happenstance.
And it doesn't seem to be like right at Gettysburg on July 2nd, where I got to the ridge and the general says, okay, we'll send a whole corps up there. That's not at all what this is for Bragg's state.
Thank you.
Who's talking to Churchill?
Say that again?
Who's talking to Churchill?
To Churchill?
Churchill.
He's working under Palmer. If he's working under anybody at that moment, he's largely at this moment independent. But he is working in coordination with Palmer, even somewhat Johnson. So
Yeah, he's moved essentially in response to the collapse of Palmer's flank here. So he's turned, and that's another point. So in addition to Harker, Negley, Brannan, Hazen, we also have Turchin coming from that direction. If you could see this from an aerial point of view, you have kind of Union forces converging from all directions. And it's certainly not individually coordinated. Harker has no idea that there's other troops moving up here when he's on that road. He's all alone and about to be gobbled up. Hazen is committing these 3 regiments because he feels that it's a crisis. He's got the only troops around. Negley thinks he's going into a forlorn hope attack. Negley's troops are convinced they're going to go basically charge a heavily defended Confederate line. The sense of relief from Negley's guys when they move into the timber, there's a couple of shots, the Confederates retreat and they come out and all of a sudden they haven't had to fight this terrible battle is acute. You can read it in the letters and diaries right after that base events. They're sure they're going to go into a Hornets.
like they had 9 months before when they had advanced into the woods, only to be badly stung by hornets. Any other questions or observations?
When Hazen got here, was all the artillery already gone?
Yes. Gone or captured.
Just one more example of how well drilled Hazen's brigade is. As Dave indicated, as Hazen comes in, the 9th Kentucky will be formed here. To their right will be the 9th Indiana here. Then the 6th Kentucky. The 41st Ohio actually winds up going a little bit further to the south. The tide of refugees is probably what helps carry them a little further away. And as the 41st Ohio is marching south and has formed into line of battle, they're trying to turn towards the Confederates. There is this flood of refugee Federals going to the rear. Of course, these guys are in the standard two-rank formation, elbow to elbow, in the line. So now, how are we going to get fleeing troops through that line? Colonel Akela Wiley of the 41st Ohio, as they're advancing south, and he sees this flood trying to come through his line, he orders his regiment to halt. And let me see if I can draft a couple more people. So I'm going to get you to stand right there. So you're the right of the 41st Ohio. I'll get you to stay right where you are. Harvey, if I can get you to add in there. And now if you all will put your arms out at the side and kind of touch fingertips. So they represent the battle line, or at least just 3 companies of it. And what he does is he commands the regiment to halt, and then he has each one of the companies basically wheel to the rear. And so put your arms back up. And so now it's a much more complicated maneuver than this. But on your we'll do it off the left fingertips. So on your left fingertips, use your left yes, it is your left. Your left fingertips as your pivot point, and now just wheel to the rear. Yep. Just a quarter turn.
Yeah, that's the danger right
They're
there.
not drilled.
The awkward squad.
So now what they've done is they've opened big intervals in their line. And this allows these fugitives to flee through without breaking up the company battle lines. And once the majority of them are through, then the command is given to wheel back and form the line again. That's still, the enemy's coming. There's fire around. You still got to be well drilled to be able to do that. But this is one of the best drilled brigades in the Army.
And you do it without a bugler.
No, they're doing it with a bugle. So when Robert Kimberly, the lieutenant colonel, is the one who records this, but when he orders them to break the line to the rear by companies, there's actually a bugle call for that. And so when Akela Wiley shouted, break to the rear by companies, the bugler sounded an appropriate call. The company commanders all heard that. They then knew what orders to give, and when Wiley said, march, then the bugler sounded march, and the company commanders gave their orders, and the line broke. I should have brought Casey's Tactics out here with me, but it's a big, thick book. You got a lot to learn if you're going to be an infantry regimental commander. So. I haven't learned much of it. I'm not going to be much of an infantry commander.
Well, it being a big, thick book's why you don't have it with you.
That's
that
part
would
of
stop
it. Yes.
him.
Yeah.
Well, I opted instead for my Union Reports volume from Chickamauga. So.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing what fits in that backpack.
Yes, sir.
How many times did they perform that maneuver going back to the swinging?
Indiana?
I don't
put down a number, but multiple times. Probably 4, 5, 6 times.
I mean, these guys have got to be worn out by this time. They've traveled a long way. And the company that's swinging, I mean, how far is that? I mean, one company's staying put, and then the rest of the line is swinging.
The line at this time is probably about 80 yards, and so yeah, the guys on the right end of the left or right end of the line, they got
running.
Big arm. Yep.
So they're just doing this the whole time.
Yep.
There wasn't that many of them when it rolled. They could see
They
it.
reload when they were turning, just to, I guess they couldn't have fired because they were coming. Their guys were coming right at it, right?
Yeah, they were using controlled fire, so they were firing by probably by company. He doesn't specify that either, but they didn't like individual fire, so they're probably firing by company, which they were probably reloading on. I would have been reloading on that.
Okay. So where do we want to? Do we want to go through to look at?
And then we'll come back and finish.
And we'll come back.